What is up? I'm Miguel Antonio, and this is the Live and Create podcast. It's where I interview artists and entrepreneurs about what it means to live a great life and create great things. On this episode, we have Randy Shine. He's a magician, a producer, and a speaker. Randy is based out of Philadelphia, but he has become a global phenomenon, performing for diverse audiences all over the world and really just connecting and making huge fans out of the people he gets to see and doing this for really over a decade. Randy has so many credits. It's really hard to put them all into an intro. He's also been on a bunch of TV shows, including NBC's 10 Show and Penn and Teller's Fool Us. And if you're in a place where you need to be encouraged, this is a great episode for you. Randy has so much positivity and encouragement that just overflows from him, seemingly natural. But he also shares the story of where that comes from and how it's not always an easy thing for him to maintain, and in the way that he works on developing that in his own life so that he can overflow it to others. We dive into some business topics, and he breaks down how the corporate world has inspired him on building his own business in the magic arts. And it's really cool. A lot of really interesting practical things that I think can help you. And he also shares a really fun story of getting to perform for both of Barack Obama's inaugurations and being invited to do that, and what going through all the security checkpoints with a box full of magician tools and tricks, what that was like. It's a fun one. It's a great episode. You're going to enjoy it.
The Live and Create podcast.
You are kind of doing a bunch of different things, but all in the realm of performance, speaking, and magic, right?
Correct.
Now, I'm curious for you, because I know touring was a big piece of it. I know you've toured all over the world, done so many things. I'd love to talk more and more about that as we go into it. But I'm curious, like over COVID, what did those transitions look like for you? And I guess how hard was it for you to transition?
Oh, wow. Well, I like to start off just like every other entertainer, and I'm sure other people, but it hit us big. And the transition was a learning curve. I was talking to my wife, and I have a saying, I'm like, hey, we have to either adapt or die, or adapt or thrive. And so, it wasn't an option. I had to thrive somehow. And so it took me, actually, at first I said, no one will want to see a virtual show.
Okay, so you had, right in the beginning, you're like, this isn't going to work.
Right. I said, no one wants to see a virtual. I literally posted that on Instagram. I'm like, who would want to see a virtual, not on Instagram, Facebook, who would want to see a virtual show of a magician when you could go on Netflix, YouTube, Hulu, and watch all these highly produced shows?
Right.
I got a couple of responses, and someone said, I would.
Nice.
I'm like, oh, really?
What?
I said, really? And so it was someone I knew who lived in Florida. So I called her up and I said, okay, I'm gonna take you to task on that. I'm gonna do a show for you, a virtual show for free. Invite anybody you want. That next week, it was a Sunday, I did a virtual show for her friends, family. Right after that show, someone booked me. And that got the ball rolling, the snowball rolling. And I was like, oh my gosh, people really actually want to see this? So I said, great. So then the challenge was learning the technology, cameras, microphones, and things like that. And, it was really basic at first. It literally was just my laptop, the camera on my laptop, and the microphone in my laptop. That's it.
So you're starting pretty basic right out the gate.
Basic right out the gate. And it was okay for me to do that, because the one thing I did know is everyone is trying to figure this out. So no one has cornered the market on what is high production value and what is not. So everyone was trying to figure this out. And so I just, You crawl before you walk, walk before you run before you fly. And so over time, you know, I'm watching YouTube videos on lighting. I'm watching YouTube videos on microphones. I'm in these magicians groups on Facebook and talking about what is the best equipment, what's not, what to use. And, you know, I just started to get the things that work best for me. Excuse me, I got to turn this off. Someone's calling me.
It's all good.
That works best for me. So yes, the game has stepped up. Now it's to the point where everyone has, if you get the basics down, the foundation, and build off of that, you find out what works for you. Because I'm talking to other performers. They say, oh, I use this device. I use OBS. I stream. Other people say, I don't stream. I do this and do this. But they found their niche.
Right.
And
I went through a similar thing like with the podcast. And I remember trying to do OBS and I wanted to stab my eye out because I'm like, I'm just not a techie dude.
Right.
And like, you know, I went through all these different iterations and figured out, okay, so for my goals, for the flow that I want, the show that I want, okay, this is where I can settle in. But you have to do the exploration, which it sounds like you did the hard work to run around and say, all right, what the hell is going to work for me?
Yeah. And so once I figured that out, I called, it was a step-by-step process. So I got that first gig. Then I called my cousin up and I asked her, I said, hey, I would like to do a test run magic show for virtual, because I'm just trying to work out the kinks. I just did 2, one for free, one a person hired me for one. I'm just trying to work out the kinks. She said, oh, I'm having a ladies' night out on a virtual ladies' night out or ladies' night in. And she said, this will be perfect. I said, great. And she said, oh, but no, you're my cousin. I'm going to charge everyone to come see you.
I like her. I like how she thinks.
Right,
you got some good family.
Right, exactly. So that was my third one, but my second paid one.
Okay.
And then, as you know, as I said, the snowball effect. You get one, every time you perform, people see you, they think this is a great idea for them and their friends, their family, their jobs and everything. And then it just kept on going on. But then also in that time, I reached out to my college agent. I said, hey, I'm doing virtual shows. She said, all right, let's make it happen. So that's how everything started. So I'm in my little groove now. I'm in my little groove, my niche, thankfully.
Well, and I love that it started with you denouncing it. I love that. But you were willing to listen to your fans. You were willing to say, okay, maybe I'm wrong. Let's explore it. And that's pretty cool, man.
I'm glad that you say that. I'm glad that you said that. That's going to be something I'm going to post on Instagram. I'm big on Instagram. I'm going to do a video and say, I was wrong and I'm glad I was wrong. And it was about this.
Well, and it's funny. I did a season where I was putting out a new song every single week, and they were just kind of rough drafts. And so it was surprising to me getting feedback from different fans of songs that they connected with, and I thought it was a good learning experience because songs that I thought were great, no one really talked about. I didn't get feedback from, and some of the songs that I almost felt like throwaway songs to me, though I got like messages from people, hey, this meant this to me, and this is the reason why, and it was such a great lesson in testing things out and learning and listening beyond my own like realm, beyond my own ideas, and like that's what I love about how your story started is. You're like, hey, I'm going to throw this out there. This is what I think. You're willing to be like opinionated, and strong, but then you took this position of humility. I'm going to listen. Maybe there's something here. And now you thrived. You managed to thrive during this pandemic.
You know what? I just want to switch real quick. Something you said about, you did a song every week and you put, out there and you got feedback from your fans. My wife has a favorite independent, not signed to a label at all.
Okay.
R&B artist. He's been around for a while.
Who is it, dude?
Eric Robeson.
Okay.
He did this incredible thing that I thought was brilliant. I don't know if it was original to him. I don't know. And it was called The Process. So what he would do is he's in his recording studio recording songs. and he actually charged people. So he would do it on, I don't know, some platform. I don't know if it was Zoom or something else.
Okay.
The fans actually saw the process, the rough draft of a song
Right.
being played and sung. The fans chose the songs that will be on his next album. Going
I
through
love
the
it.
process. I was like, oh my gosh. And so he put out the album. He said, these are the songs that you wanted to hear as I was going through this writing process. This made the cut.
That's awesome.
This
I'll have to check him out. It's let me get the name. I'll have to write that down one more time. That it's
Eric
Robertson.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm like, yo, that is brilliant. That's a great way to connect with your fans. And the fans voted on. He said, all right, here's the songs I'm writing, put them all out. Then he said, now you vote on the top 8 songs. And the top 8 that got the highest went on his new album, and he put it out.
That's awesome. Well, and it seems talking to other magicians as well, you often build your shows off of fan interaction, where like one magician was pointing out, they're like, you might jump out in the crowd like once or twice. He's like, 70% of my show, you know, when we could do live shows, was bringing people up on stage and interacting with them and kind of getting that vibe and that feel. I wonder for you, do you feel like the idea of listening and responding to your fans and your audience is built in for you? As like, do you feel like that was an easy stepping stone to continue to that same relationship online? If that question makes sense.
Actually, for me, yes, it was easy because I like to talk. I like to talk. So it was easy, and I don't hide behind the tricks, even when I'm doing performing live. There's some magicians out there where they hide behind the tricks. It's all about the tricks. It's all about the tricks. And what is the story? What is it about them? And that's something like that musicians like yourself do really well. You know, you're doing a song, and then you're done a song, you're about to introduce another song. You talk about how you came up with this song and thing. You know, you give some backstory.
VH1 storyteller deal. You know,
yeah. And even sometimes you're just interacting with the crowd. So it was easy for me in doing it in this virtual space, because I would talk to them like, hey, where are you from? And they'll say, okay, I'm from Kentucky. I'm like, Kentucky, okay, all right. And how long have you been here? Are you native? And then I'm like, oh, I performed at this university here, and we're having this dialogue. Right. But also it's interesting enough for the other people who are watching, because they're like, oh, am I going to be the next person he's going to pick? What is he going to ask me? And I may even do some other things. I'm like, okay, all right, it's time for the audience participation part of the show. I'm not going to perform. Miguel, you're going to tell a joke to everyone. It's like that.
That's awesome.
And so they're like, I don't know, oh my gosh, whether they tell a joke or not, but it's their reaction, and everyone feels.
Maybe they saw the look of fear in my face, like, do I actually need to take a joke? I think Randy might actually make me tell a joke right now. And no one wants that right now, but.
so it's just that thing, even the reaction, like you said. So it's that way of engaging people. And also, one of the things that I realized very quickly, I'm like, wow, this is no different than someone who's reporting the evening news, because they don't have an audience. They're looking at the camera and they're reporting the news to you. Better yet, for entertainers, to some degree, this is no different than Saturday Night Live. They may have a studio audience. Well, not now, during this pandemic, they still have to play to the camera and entertain. Now, they may have individuals there, you know, other actors, but then there's some things that they don't, but they still have to resonate. And so I'm looking at those individuals, and I'm like, okay, it can be done. So how do we connect? How do I connect with people with that they're not physically here? And so what other conventions can I do besides, you know, what I just said earlier, but also Do you have a deck of cards? Do you have this lying around in your house? All right, we're going to do a trick with that, and it's going to happen in your home.
That's really cool. I love that idea. That's brilliant.
Mm-hmm. So
well, and oh, go ahead.
No. So it's just that learning curve, creative process, and just keep on coming up with some things.
Well, and I remember you even talking about like you love to talk and I love to talk. And I remember, I think that's when we first met each other. I think it was like, I don't know, like 10 o'clock at night, and all the different people are headed at a conference somewhere. We're like, well, maybe we should go do something else besides just talking. But what I loved about those conversations is all these different trains of thought. I think you have such a creative bent. You obviously love magic, and you're obviously brilliant at it as well. And then this business sense behind you, this reality of being able to connect with people. But there was a story you told, which I thought was super interesting, because you weren't always on the magician track. You were on a completely different track before this. And it then blew me away, but it also unpacked so much, I think, that I could see in our conversations in you. And so would you mind just kind of telling the story of what track you were on before becoming a magician?
Yeah, unlike the majority of magicians, I did not get started when I was a kid. I was a well-adjusted kid, I like to say.
That's awesome.
I got interested in magic when I was in graduate school at Penn State, if anyone's listening, Penn State. And I was studying health education research. So me and a group of friends, we used to do card tricks. It wasn't even a hobby. We knew around 5 card tricks, and we thought it was cool.
Just a way to blow off steam after hours and hours of studying?
Yeah, that's it. Between classes, study breaks, that's it. Just card tricks, that's it. Nothing really phenomenal looking back. When I graduated, I moved to South Africa, and I was working for the University of the Western Cape in Cape Town, South Africa for a year doing research. Came back to the United States, started working for the University of Pennsylvania in the Department of Epidemiology and Biostatistics doing behavioral intervention drug adherence research.
Well, I'll have to have you write that out sometime for me. And so you're doing some serious like scientist shit, right?
Yes, exactly. And I was working on a PhD at the time.
Okay.
And so I decided after a year and a half of doing both of those things, I said, no, I want to do card tricks for a living. And so
what was it that made that decision? I know in our conversations we talked through it, but I can't remember what the moment was for you that flipped it for you.
Well, it was on several things. Number one, the friends that I met in the master's program at Penn State when we used to do card tricks just to blow off steam in between classes and study breaks, 2 of them became full-time magicians. And I was like, wow, they're doing this. Then the other thing is that, it's something about it was just like this freedom. It's like a passion, a calling. And I was like, yo, this stuff I'm good at. But realistically, publish or perish. I was on a fast track of being a college professor. That was my goal. I was going to be a college professor. Okay. I wanted to be a tenured college professor doing research and teaching. That was my goal. But working, doing research in class, I'm like, oh my gosh, there has to be a better way.
So for you, because I imagine you had some passion in that world,
yes.
to take you that far and doing the things you were doing. But do you feel like that passion died off for you the deeper you went, or do you just feel like your passion for magic and the performance aspect grew that much greater?
The passion for magic grew, but how academia works, the political side of academia.
I only have heard stories about that, but I hear it can be very intense.
Yes. I'm like, no, And see, that's why I married my wife. because we met in the PhD program. She has the
Okay.
PhD.
There you go. There you
He
go.
has
I was
the,
on a Zoom call yesterday with a bunch of artists, like an artist panel, and there's one guy. He's like, "I'm an illustrator," and he's very successful illustrator. But he goes, "But I have healthcare because my wife is a very accomplished professional person."
right,
So
right.
I get that.
But you know what? That's something else. I'm glad that you said that he's a very successful illustrator, because that's something that's it's a little pet peeve when people who are not in the arts like we
Mhm.
are, and we tell them what we do for a living, and they're like, "Oh, your partner must, it's a primary breadwinner." I'm like, "No," I'm like, "Actually, we are the same."
Right.
She's not bringing in more money than significantly more money than me. I'm not bringing in significant more money than her. Right? We're same, and that's one thing. Now, okay, yes, the health benefits, I get that.
Well, and that's my wife is self-employed. We actually, so our COVID story was, everything kind of shut down, and then she was doing a residential
Mhm,
business, like
mhm,
commercial clean. That all went away. Well,
mhm.
her commercial side grew, so now that's one thing we actually do that together, the
Right,
commercial side. But
mhm,
it still doesn't come with the bennies, like we
right,
had to figure
right.
out something there. But I sidetracked you on
Yeah,
that one.
but yeah, and so it's that thing. But then there's other things that I take care, because it's a team. It's a team when you're when
Absolutely.
in a relationship, and people have to realize that it's a team. At any given point in time, the roles can change, and the beauty
Mhm.
about doing what we do, it's easier for us to change. It's
Yeah.
easier for us to pivot and do other things. Now, my wife, what she does now, she's no longer working in academia. She works as the director for health education for the county we
Okay.
live in. So all
Nice.
this COVID thing, she's there coordinating testing sites, setting up testing sites, and uh, coordinating people calling in, and having people getting volunteers to answer calls and giving them the correct information. She's burnt out
Yeah,
over it all.
business is booming, I guess, for lack
Yeah,
of a
yes,
better
yes.
way to say it
Yeah,
on that.
yeah,
Well,
yes.
and I think what you said is the thing is, at least what we've noticed in our marriage, we're coming up on 11 years now.
Mhm,
And there is this, it feels like for us, it's been kind of an ebb and flow. Like there are
mhm.
seasons where I was I was shouldering more of the financial,
Yes.
where then seasons where she was, as touring, like kicked up, and
Mhm,
same with like the kids. Like there's times where she was staying home, and then times where I was off tour,
mhm.
and so she was working and I was home with all the boys, those kind of
Exactly.
things. And I think you said partner in there, and I think that's the partnership. and
Right.
and I've seen it not work because the perspective wasn't, it was more tit for tat. Well, you
Right.
got to do this, well now I'm going to do this, or as opposed to, no, we're in this together, let's build this thing, this life. For us, it's about the life that we want
I-
together and the life that we want for our kids.
mhm.
And that's not just the financial piece, it's also, like for example, we're going on vacation in 2 weeks
Right.
during school, because we
Right.
found out it was like half the price to go, and we could, because we're very flexible. So we're like,
Right.
you know what, we're going to pack the kids up, we're going to go on an off season, save some money, and enjoy this thing that we may have not been able to under regular
Exactly.
circumstances. So but
Exactly.
yeah, it's the partnership, I think, is
Mhm.
big deal for us. I know it sounds like for you guys as
Yeah,
well.
it is. It is, and these are the type of conversations I like to have, because this is the real conversation about being an entertainer.
Right.
Everyone sees the stage life and everything, like when we're on stage, but doing what we do on stage is easy for us.
Yeah, and it's like that much time. Yeah.
Exactly, that much time. But we have families we have to that is part of our lives that are important, and
Right.
so that's another side people don't see.
Well, it hit me too because I didn't factor it. It's just the life we've been living. Yeah.
Mhm. Right.
Where there's a younger artist that
Mhm.
we were hanging out one day,
Mhm.
another musician, and he was dating this girl. They're getting kind of serious, and he's just like, I just I want to propose, but I don't even know. Like, can you have a marriage? Can you have kids? I want to have kids, but can you do it? And I was like, I have 4, man. So let's
Right.
talk.
Right. Exactly.
I think they're well adjusted. Well,
Right.
time will tell.
Right. Right. Right.
But it's such a big piece. It's actually part of a music mastermind group as well. And there's
Mhm.
another artist in there, and he was asking those same questions. Single guy, just did his, just starting out playing music, but curious, like, what does it look like?
Right.
And again, I've been living that life for a long time, and I
Mhm.
almost take it for granted. Like, we just, you just keep trying to figure it out.
Well, they're going
So
to the right person because like you said, you've been married for 11 years, so you got the T-shirt, the trophy, and everything else, right?
Right. And that's what's crazy is, like, our oldest is 17, so he's getting ready to go to college, and those kind
Mm,
of things, where our youngest is 7, and
mhm.
he's still working out how to read. And
Right.
it's such a span, though. So for your wife, as you made this transition, were you guys together when you decided to leave grad school and pursue
No, no,
the
no,
whole career? So you
no.
had already started this transition when you guys met.
No, I was in graduate school working on my PhD.
Oh,
Remember I
that's
said,
right. You did say that. You did say that.
so it was
So,
the master's, then South Africa, then simultaneously working for University of Penn, and I was working on my doctoral degree. We were in the same doctoral cohort.
I see. Okay.
That's what that's where we met, and we weren't even interested in each other. Other people say that they saw it.
They can see the chemistry. You guys are too focused. Is that what it
Right,
was?
right. So when I left, everyone in my cohort knew why I left. Because I'm like, I'm done. I'm going to pursue
Right.
magic. And so Philadelphia is a big city, but a small city, if you know what I mean. Everyone, it's 0.5 degrees of separation in Philadelphia.
Okay.
So so we just kept in touch, in contact. And then, we went out on a date, and then, one date led to another date, led to a marriage proposal. So.
That's awesome, man.
Mhm.
Well, and it obviously then in going through that track, obviously she was on board with the
Right, because she
direction
knew
you
from
were
the
headed.
start
Right.
why I left. She was there when I left the doctoral program, and she knew what I was doing. She's seen what I've been doing because I post on social media and everything, and travel in the same circles. So she knew what she was getting into.
That's awesome, man. So you make this decision, you're done. You don't want to keep playing the politics. You want to pursue this passion that continues to grow. What was that first year like for you, stepping out of this crazy career you'd already built and put so much time and investment and starting something totally new? What was that first year
You
like?
know what, man? Actually, it was really exciting. I remember to this day the very first show that I did as a full-time performer. Because when I was, if I could get a show here and there when I was working and in school, I did it, but they were few and far between. But I was like, oh, it was raining. I'm driving to the show, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm on the phone with the agent, and the agent was just making sure that I knew where to go and just going over some things with me for the show. And I was just like, after I did the show, I'm like, I did it. I'm here. Literally,
Like, yeah.
yes. And so that first year, I honestly say I was fortunate, or I would say, do you know? Have you ever heard people say, when I was a kid, we were poor, but I didn't know I was poor?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I didn't know. I was just too happy, too ignorant to know what I was jumping into, to know the risk that I was taking. It was one of those things. I'm just like, oh yeah, this is great. This is great. And now, granted, I had some money saved up from working.
Right.
Like that.
You're smart. You had some things there, though.
Yeah, not a lot now. Not a lot. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I had to rob Peter to pay Paul and rob Paul to pay them all. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about, my man. That's it.
Right. Right. And for those who are listening and watching, not literally robbing someone, but
Right.
right.
Hopefully you guys know that. Hopefully.
Right. Hopefully. But
Like, who's Mary and why did you steal that shit from her? I don't understand.
exactly. So but I was just so focused on this journey. I literally was. And I was like, yo, I'm stepping out of the norm, what people expected of me, but what they expected of anyone else. You go to school, you go to college, you get a career, you work there, you may bounce around for jobs for a while, and then you retire and get the gold watch and everything like that. But I was like, no, I was just so focused on that. And that first year was just incredible, man. It was a high. And I didn't know what I don't, you don't know what you don't know. And I think that was a great thing for me.
I'm smiling so big because there's another artist that I interviewed. He's a songwriter and he's signed to like a major label and doing some huge things now. And that was something he had said. He goes, as I was talking about early on in his career, he goes, man, I just feel like I was ignorant enough to believe that I can make it. And like, he's like, I did really, in retrospect, really stupid things, but it was just out of this idea that like ignorance was bliss in a way. It's like I could move forward because I didn't realize those were not the right things to do in a way.
Perfectly articulated. I was ignorant enough to believe that I could make it. Yes, definitely. Right. Yes. Perfect.
And it's crazy to hear someone, you know, like for him, his name's Keelan Donovan. Brilliant. If you ever get a chance, check his stuff out. He's writing for a bunch of people. And then for you, like you both have built these great careers out of that spot of saying, and that thing that you said, the focus, like if you're focused on that thing, the peripheral can't distract you. And I think that's huge, man, because there's so many distractions, right? Or potential.
No, yes, there are. There are, I like to say that there are external and internal distractions. External is, you know, friends, family, you know what, I'm in this, I want a better living arrangement, I want a bigger car, whatever. All those things may like pull you back to something. The internal thing is you're struggling, like, am I doing the right thing? No, what?
And that's the hardest for me is the internal.
Yes, same
like
here.
The external stuff doesn't, like, I like nice things, I like nice shoes and all that, but like it really is that I love that you break those down because the internal piece for me particularly is that's the one that I constantly have to battle. That's the one that constantly wins, that I have to come back and try to beat, you know. And
same here. It's always this internal battle in terms of, oh my gosh, how come I'm not here? This is the goal. I want to be here. I want to do this. I want to perform here. What's going on? Is this the sign of the end for me or what? And so seriously,
the show looked a little light. Is it not going good?
Exactly.
Well, you shared the story of your first performance, and I remember we were on a tour, and it was one of the first shows where we got like substantial money for us, you know, and we got this check, and I think we were in like Tennessee, and literally like for several years we had been making shit, you know. And I remember we all looked at this check together in the van, and we're like, all right, hurry up, drive off campus before they come. Like it just felt like someone was going to come steal it from us because the mindset had been almost corrupted by like the struggle in a way. It was hard to accept the success that was starting to come.
Exactly. I remember the first time, it wasn't my first show. The first show I got paid crap in retrospect, but it was but once again, I was ignorant and like, hey, I'm making it, I'm doing it. And even though it was my very first show as a professional magician. But the first time I got that substantial check, I'm like, someone really paid me to do this amount of money. All right, where's the joke? Where's the cameras? And saying, nah, Randy, and we were just playing with you.
I'm gonna need that back.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. But that's a beautiful feeling right there. Where you get paid a nice check and for doing what you really enjoy and love doing, and you're like, someone really appreciates what I do.
Hmm.
That's a nice feeling. And they're willing to pay me X amount of dollars for this. That's a nice feeling. It really is.
Right.
Mhm.
And confirmation, I think, especially towards that internal struggle, at least for
Yeah.
me, is the idea like, okay, maybe I am on the right track.
Mhm.
Maybe I am moving in the right direction.
Mhm.
And so that first year, exhilarating. You're seeing some things, grow for you.
Mhm.
Uh, where do you say, like, was there any moment like in the coming years that it was like, okay, now things are really popping off for you? Or do you feel like that was already starting in that first year?
No, 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 no. Because there was a point in time where dealing with these internal struggles,
Mm,
I thought about just getting out of magic.
mm,
Seriously, I'm like, nah, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. And I never had that conversation with anyone. It was just with me. I had that conversation, and I got a call, and that's when I got I got an email, and that's when I got signed to my college agent.
boom.
And that was,
Another step of confirmation for you, I
yes, that
imagine.
was confirmation. Exactly, that's confirmation. Like, nah, you're not done with this. And the universe said, no, you're not done with this. And when I got that call, I was like, that was when, boom, and that was probably 5 to 6 years after I started.
Okay. So, and I love that you share that too, because that gives perspective. I know there's some younger artists who listen to this podcast, and it gives some perspective, like keep hustling, keep taking those steps.
Right,
And it
right,
took still a while. The overnight sensations, 10 years in the making kind of deals,
right, right. And so that was great. And then I started to see a bigger picture in terms of what I can do as a performer. And magic is still the foundation. And so, yes, for example, okay, I was just doing local stuff at first. That's first 5 years, birthday parties, family reunions, weddings, small little corporate events, local corporate events for maybe like a small business or something like that. Then I started doing the colleges, and I'm like, wow, you could travel. Okay. Then military tours. I'm like, oh, this is great. Then bigger corporate events. And then I said, okay, what else could I do? And I said, well, you know what? During the summertime, colleges are not really doing anything. You know what? Maybe I could start teaching at camps. So I started doing that. Just teaching
That's a cool
magic.
idea.
Start
I
teaching
love it.
magic. Start teaching magic at camps. And that was good. And that got really good where I was hiring out other magicians to cover camps.
Nice.
and getting a little bit of that residual income,
There you go. Growing
So
businesses and helping other magicians as well.
right,
That's huge.
right. And so, as I said, the snowball effect. You get one gig, someone in that audience will see you, and they're going to hire you. Now, they may hire you a week from now or 3 years from now, but they're going to hire you. Someone from that show that you did.
So
And
true.
so then what started to happen, people were like, well, Randy, you know what? I heard your story, the one that I shared how I got into magic. They said, this is interesting. Would you be willing to speak to this group? So I'm like, well, I'm not a speaker, but I could come up with something. And so I started speaking, but incorporating magic in talking to different organizations, high schools. I've even done, because of my health background in public health, I've spoken for health organizations
That's awesome.
like that, because
Bring it
that's,
all together.
but it all together. So it started to grow like that. Now, granted, magic is still the foundation. Performance is 99% of what I do. But now that there's these other venues that I can incorporate, and this is something that I like to share to all your listeners who are entertainers. I don't care if you're a juggler, a magician, a comedian, singer songwriter, band. One thing that I'm gonna get on. I'm gonna toot my own horn for this. One thing I've always said that is that as it relates to magicians, I study business outside of magic.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is, and part of it is this: before I got married, well before I got married, when I made this transition to become a magician, I dated a girl who worked for Hewlett Packard.
Okay.
And she was up there she was at what they call the C-suites, you know.
Right on.
And she created this binder for me. And she said, this is what we do as Hewlett Packard. But what I did was I broke everything down so you could start thinking like a business as a magician.
That's amazing.
And I still have this binder to this day. And so diversification is key. I'll give you an example that everyone could relate to. Apple started off as a computer company. Then, and particularly in the educational realm, that's where they were. Schools, that's where their computers were. Schools,
Okay.
universities, that's it. Then they expanded out to the corporate. Then they diversified and got into the music with the iPad and iTunes. Then they expanded more and got into the phones with iPhones. And then they got into apps for the iPhones. Now Apple TV, now cloud-based storage. Computers is their foundation, but you see how they diversify. And
Absolutely.
So as an artist, if you want to have a sustainable, profitable career, figure out ways that you could diversify what you do, but your art is still your foundation. And so just because I go and speak here or do a camp here, that doesn't erase or take away what I do as a magician, because being a magician got me to those places. And in some of those speaking engagements, I could charge more than I do as a magician. And so, and I keep everything related to magic. Everything comes back to magic. And so if you think like any company, they diversify. Even McDonald's, they went from selling nothing but hamburgers. Now they got fish, chicken McNuggets, fries.
You get tacos for a minute. Like,
exactly.
So, and their spicy chicken sandwich is fire. I gotta tell you, it's so good. So
that's the thing. Think of ways that you could diversify. Now, here's something else that I learned as I got older and performing more seasoned, I should say. And I think you probably know this more than I do. And correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
When it comes to entertainment, people think, "Oh, wow, Randy, you don't have a show in Vegas." You know, a singer. Oh, I haven't seen you. Don't have a song on the on the charts. You're not. You weren't invited to the Grammys or the American Music Awards and everything like that. But what I found is that's only probably 1% of 1% of all entertainers in the world, in the country. However, just because I don't have a show on, or any magician or any entertainer is not a celebrity in a spotlight, doesn't mean that they're not successful.
Absolutely.
And I'll tell you why, because sometimes people don't choose that life. They don't want to.
I know some people who have chosen, they had the record contract, they're on track for that, and they looked at the business sense of it, and they looked at the lack of control, and they actually got out of it and stepped away and found a way to do it professionally without it.
But there are a lot of entertainers. Actually, there are more entertainers who are highly successful, and I always like to say sustainable and profitable, who have a sustainable and profitable career without all the glitz and glamour. They're touring the world. They're touring the country. They got a fan base, particularly with social media and the different things they have out there. They're creating their own lane. And so they're not tied into an agent or a record label or agency to control their image, their work, and everything else. But guess what? Here's the other thing. They found their tribe, and their tribe found them.
Absolutely.
All you need to do is find your tribe.
And now we have so much potential to do that with the reach, where before, that's where touring came about, is because before, you could only get so much of your tribe in your city unless you were in New York City or
Right,
LA.
right.
And so you had to go find those people. Now you can find those people literally every minute of the day, anywhere in the world.
So once you find your tribe, you're good. Now I'm going to add one thing to this. The difference between being an A-list celebrity and not being an A-list celebrity as an entertainer, it's not talent. I'm going to tell you why it's not talent. Follow me with this. Talent is the gatekeeper. You have to have talent in the first place.
Right.
Or else you're not going to make it. You're going to go back doing something else.
Well, and that's being in some of the circles that we had the opportunity to be in some of the studios. And I found out it's like, oh, now that we stepped where we just stepped, it's just assumed you have talent. So let's talk about all the other things.
Exactly.
It's like, oh, okay, no one cares because everyone can sing. Okay, so
exactly.
what's the thing?
So I say it's luck. Being at the right place at the right time. That one person saw you and like, yo, I work for CAA. We want to sign you. Let's talk. It's just that. It's just luck, and that's something that none of us can control.
Absolutely.
At the right place at the right time, or someone saw you, someone heard about you through a friend or something like that, and that's. I could get a little bit more nuance about it, but in general, that's what it is.
Right. Are you familiar with Jim Collins et al., business writer? Great by Choice and Good to Great are his big books.
Good to Great. I heard of that. Yes.
And so he has a follow-up book called Great by Choice. I love both of them, but Great by Choice basically takes Good to Great and makes it more applicable. Where Good to Great was a great book, but more, 30,000 feet. But that was the thing. They tried to quantify what they called ROL, return on luck. And they tried really hard scientifically to understand how luck operated in these Fortune 500 businesses that they were tracking. And it's a fascinating thing. And that's what they discovered, that what they termed bad luck events, the successful companies actually had more bad luck events than the unsuccessful ones. And it all came to their ability to leverage the luck that they had. So like the talent piece, or like for them, he breaks down, I won't do a full book review here, but he breaks it down. It's like they had everything in order. They had the binders, figuratively speaking, to where when that luck came, they could offer something to it. They could leverage it. Even the bad luck, they could take that and then pivot, or, like you talked about with Apple, where they could figure out a way to pivot around that bad luck and create something completely new, really in a way like you describing your story of, this Zoom's not going to work. And next thing you know, you build a Zoom business.
Right. So I just want to share that.
That's great, man.
Yeah, I just want to share that, and hopefully, any artists that are listening, that can help them. What?
Even for me, it's like I feel like I've learned that lesson. I've been around people who have built those things and seen the life they're living. It's like, oh, this is cool. But then sometimes you just get wrapped up in the accolades and like seeing my friends on TV or seeing my friends at the, those things, and then realizing sometimes it's not always everything that's made up to be. And then sometimes they're not happy with it. Sometimes it's great. And that's awesome too. It's just like, where are you leveraging the opportunities that come your way?
Exactly.
And so that's a great reminder. And that idea of the tribe, I think it goes back to even the beginning of our conversation. Like, you were listening to your fans. You had this relationship with the people that you've been creating a service for, essentially.
Right.
And I think that's what I saw in the bands that were, touring all over the world, that no one has heard of, in the mainstream. But the reality is they have a great career that they love. And, I talked to one guy who has been touring and doing that for 20 years. He's like, I'm 2 weeks on, I'm 2 weeks off. And usually I get off the bus and I get on a plane, I meet my family, and then we'll go fly somewhere else and enjoy some time together. It's like he found a way to build this life, even though the mainstream or the big accolades weren't there for him. And those things are inspiring and encouraging.
It is. And I discovered this when there's a paper in Philadelphia called the Philadelphia Weekly. It's a free, weekly magazine, arts, entertainment, some other stuff that's going on. And I saw this a band come into this venue here, and it's a small venue, maybe 1,000, seat venue. And I tried to get tickets, and it was sold out. I was like, what the heck? Because they did a write-up of this band coming in, and I'm like, I would love to see this. It was sold out. So a couple weeks later, I was flying to another city for a college show, and I got there a day early, and I was going to spend, sometimes if I can, I'll spend a day after the show there just to explore the city.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, as I was making my plane ticket and everything, and I said, "Oh, let me see where's this band touring at." Well, they were in the same city where I was going to be doing a college show. So I tried to get tickets. I'm like, they're sold out there, and I'm like, I thought I was the only one that heard about this band. Seriously, I'm like, never heard them on the radio, never seen them on any TV award shows or anything like that. Right. I went to their website. I was like, okay, I'm digging this music, I'm digging this sound and everything like that. But I'm like, why are they sold out? So when I went to their website and I started seeing their touring schedule, and I would go to the venues to see tickets, sold out.
Every time.
And that's when I realized you've got to find your tribe.
Well, and there's a whole different industry than just, like you said, that 1%. And yeah, it's so eye-opening, and it's interesting because there is some stories. There was a guy over drinks one night was sharing with me, a very talented artist. He was doing the big tour, like big shit. And he's like, I've made it. He's feeling great. Gets off the tour and he gets a letter from his record company, and he's thinking it's a check. He's like, this is going to be awesome. This is my check. And it was like $20,000 or $30,000 bill when he was all said and done.
Wow.
And he had like this release, he had all these things, and he was like, oh shit,
Wow.
And it was that eye-opening thing for him. It was eye-opening for me to hear that story. But it's like sometimes chasing those big things, and he ended up, he found a way to actually even leverage that. He turned it into internship at the record label to work off his debt and learn the industry. And now he's building things on his own, separate from that system, and doing great, which is cool. But yeah, so eye-opening is like sometimes chasing that big thing can leave you in debt, as opposed to just building a business from the ground up and making it happen.
You said it'll leave you in debt?
It can, if you're chasing those big things in the wrong way. And I'm not saying everyone who is in debt. I'm just saying there's a lot of those stories like this guy shared where they thought they were doing the big thing and they ended up with just bigger bills, or some who have declared bankruptcy.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories about that. Oh my gosh, TLC.
Yes.
Oh my
that's
God.
insane.
New Edition, when they first started out, they had their first record and everything, and they got paid $50 in a Betamax.
That's insane.
Tribe Called Quest, there was 3 members, well 4 actually, Jerobi, but he left, and top of the rap charts and tours and everything, and they had to end up splitting $30,000 between the 4 of them.
And like, we're all crazy.
So all the glitz and glamour, it's not there. And I truly believe 5-10 years from now, we're going to hear about some of the big name artists, and we're going to like, oh, so that's what really happened. Oh, I remember them. They were on TV. They were really got into some bad deals and everything. And don't get me wrong, everything is not about money. It's also about creative control. They were forced to do this, to do that. And
like Prince's journey with that.
Exactly. And who's going through it now? What is it? Taylor Swift?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a huge deal. Where it's like, who built Big Machine Records? Was it Big Machine that built Taylor Swift, or did Taylor Swift build Big Machine? When you get a monstrosity, I can't say that word, you get a huge monstrosity like of Taylor Swift, like at some point the lines get blurred because like the girl has built something real and huge, and she was going to probably do it anywhere she was at. But
exactly.
Yeah, that's nuts, man.
And it doesn't just happen. It just doesn't happen in the music industry, because I know comedians, actors, even some magicians who got screwed on. Oh my gosh, I'll tell you this real quick story and I'll shut up because I told you I like that. This magician had I'll leave his name out, very good magician. He On the surface, they were reporting that he had a $5 million deal.
Damn.
With a place to perform at, a casino.
That's a good deal.
Well, yeah,
sounds like a good deal.
Exactly. It sounds like a good deal. That was only dependent if he sold out every night for 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then was it like,
so they gave him a
you
base?
Get nothing if he didn't?
No. They gave him a base.
Okay.
And so now I don't know. They didn't. I don't know the base salary he got. But when you hear this $5 million, you're like, oh wow! See, all glitz is not glamour. Right. It was far less than that because that was dependent if he sold out every night. Had to sell out every night, but he did not. Obviously, come on, Murphy's Law. You're not going to sell out every night for 5 years, and you're doing what 4 shows a week?
Maybe for Celine Dion, you know,
like maybe
she can do that. That's about it.
Right. So it's one of those things. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You know, speaking of accolades, though, from what I understand, Barack Obama is kind of a fan of what you do. And that, I would say, that's a pretty big accolade, to be honest. I would make a T-shirt that said Barack Obama's a fan. If that were to happen to me. So
you know what? Yes.
So, yeah.
I got invited to perform at both of Barack Obama's inaugurations. And,
that's amazing, man.
It was amazing. It was a thrill. And to tell you one, of course, they do a thorough background check and everything.
I bet.
But not the funniest, strangest thing is when you get to the venue and you're going through security. And you're a magician with these props.
I did not think about what that would be like.
Oh, can you open up your case, sir? Oh, yeah. And they look in there and they're like, what the heck is all this stuff? What is it? Because, you know, magicians, we have basic props like cards and things that people recognize, but then we have some props in there that no one was like, what the hell is this? What is this prosthetic thing here? What is that for? And you're a magician. You're like, I don't want to reveal my secrets, but you know,
you're like, can we go to a private room somewhere and talk about this?
Exactly. Now, fortunate enough, it helped out because we had the person who coordinated all of that was with me. Okay. And you know, had to let them know like they're magicians. You know, got some things and everything, but still. But I found it so crazy that they took a deck of cards that I had and started going through them card by card.
Wow.
And it got me thinking, I'm like, what type of technology is created that I don't know about that they could put in a playing card?
Right.
Because I need to know this technology. Seriously.
Work it into the act. That's great.
Exactly. And what are they doing with this technology that a spy or someone who's trying to do harm could put stuff in a card? I can see you take the deck of cards out the box, look in the box, okay, fine, put them back in. They're going through the cards one at a time, holding them up, bending. I'm like, oh, what the hell? You know what I'm saying? So no, that's the highlight of my career. Definitely the highlight of my career.
Yeah, congratulations on that. I know it's been a minute since then, but I just in learning that about you, I was like, wow, how momentous of a thing. Like that's huge. That's so huge. Now the positivity, you just exude it, and it's been good for me. Like I've been one of those internal struggles. I feel like I've been in that for a while. So like just talking to you, I feel your energy and your positivity, and I needed it. It's been invigorating. So one, thank you. But I'm curious, where does that come from? And has that always been a natural thing? Like just your energy and your positivity that you put out there?
You know what? I was thinking about that. It's funny that you said that. You must be a prophet.
I'm trying to get some things here.
Right. No, it was never like that. It wasn't always like that. It wasn't always like that. It's been like that. It's been all this energy and positivity for maybe a good 10, 12 years.
Okay.
a lot of things just wore on me. And you know what? Let me just be honest. As entertainers and artists, we deal with a lot of issues. You know what I'm saying? And that's part of us being what
Yep.
we are. You know what I'm saying?
It's our strength and our curse at times.
Yes, we deal with a lot of issues, whatever they are. And I'm talking about, I truly believe that artists and entertainers suffer more from mental issues, depression and things like that because of what we do as a living. And I remembered when I was in South Africa. Now, this is not when I was working there, because I've been back to South Africa 8 times after I worked there, and I would go back there to perform South African national arts festivals and some other things. And I was talking to this gentleman. I didn't even know him. We were at the shop, you know, and these gentlemen was just arguing about what's going on with the government. And one guy just said, you know what? What can you do? What can you do? And the other guy said, hey, nothing I can do. He said, okay, all right, if you can't control it, all right, just move on. And when he said that, I was like, you know what? That's true. Like they said, if you can't control something or a situation, what can you do? And so, but the things you can control and influence, work on that. But also, it's this thing. I was like, look, in the bigger scheme of things, what I'm upset or angry about, is it going to affect my life or any loved one's life? Mm-hmm. Is it going to affect in any way, like literally their life, whether they're dead or, you know, our life that, financially or our relationships or whatever? Is it going to affect any of that? No. Am I doing something illegal? No. Am I hurting anyone or hurting anyone else? No. Okay. Is this thing uncomfortable? Yes. You don't like it? I don't like it. Randy, you got 48 hours. For me, it's more 24. You got 48 hours to be angry, pissed off, upset, run, cry, lift weights, hit the boxing bag, do whatever you do to get it out your system. After that, move on. Because if you keep on dwelling on something, you're not moving forward. That's where the energy comes from.
Well, dude, and thank you for sharing that, because I felt like I got a glimpse of just your self-talk.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
As you went through that conversation you're having with yourself. And man, I think it's exhilarating to hear another person kind of talk to themselves that way, where I've shared on the podcast way too much, where I debate, like sometimes my self-talk is like, hey, motherfucker, blah, blah, like just almost like too negative, but maybe sometimes it's good, like whatever. But then there's times where it's like going through that process. And I think it's huge for you to share that and like authentic, but I think hopefully inspiring for those who are listening. To go through that same thing. And then to let it go.
Yeah, because something happened the other day. I'm not going to go into detail. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I was with my buddy. I said, I can't believe this. I said, this may cost me a gig. You know what I'm saying? Nothing major, but I'm like, this may cost me a gig. And then my buddy looked at me. He said, Shine. He started laughing. And I was like, you know what? What can I do about it now? It's nothing I can do. So move on. And if it costs me a gig, it costs me a gig. You know, the only thing I could do is like, hey, apologize. If you accept my apology, you accept my apology and we'll move on. If you don't accept my apology, I did what I had to do. And I just moved on. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's huge.
That's it. And I'm like, I can't worry about it. I can't worry about it because there's bigger things in life. You know what I'm saying? There's another gig coming down. So, you know.
Another one will come. And sometimes there's certain things I've turned down off of principle. And then out of those things, like 2 or 3 other things popped up, you know, where I was worried about that decision. And I was like, no, this is the principles that I want to live by. So, you know, it was one particular thing was an agent way when our band first started, where was like, it was not working out. He was not a person that I felt was collaborative with other
Right.
people. He was like out to get other bands. And I was like, we are a collaborative, like that's one of our core like principles as a
Right.
band. And
Mhm.
so we had to say no. And actually out of that rose more opportunities, even though I stressed so much about it. So I wish I would have done the 48-hour, let it go, make the decision, and then, oh, look, all these good things. So,
Right.
but man, an hour has gone by.
Yeah, I told you I
That
could
it's
talk.
well, and I can talk too. So I'll start rambling. But man, I got two more questions, two
Mhm.
quick questions, just ending it. But I hope people who are listening to go check out your website, check out what you're doing, because
Mhm.
we could have gone in so many directions of the things we haven't even touched on
Right.
that you are about and that you're doing. But the last two questions, Live and Create podcast,
Mhm.
starting with the first question out of that title is how would you define living a great life right now?
Living a great life for me is just actually freedom. And when I mean freedom is doing what you love. And I truly believe if everyone did what they love, this world would be a better place. It really is. When I get sick, I want to go to a doctor who loves practicing medicine, not a
Mm,
doctor who, like, I'm in it for the money because my family told me I needed to be a doctor. When my car breaks down, I want to go to a mechanic who loves fixing cars, trying to figure this out. When you find people who are passionate about what they do, they're happy. We can have these conversations. And when the bad time comes, the bad times are not really bad times. They're just a small moment because the good outweighs the bad. And
right.
so live your best life by being as passionate in what you do. And don't be afraid to take risks. That's the live part.
That's cool. And I
Mhm.
love that it's the freedom piece where it doesn't sound like freedom from responsibility, but
No,
freedom to choose the responsibility you want,
exactly.
to build that profession or that passion you want.
Mhm.
That's huge, man.
Mhm.
And the last question,
Mhm.
how would you define creating great things right now in your life?
Creating great things in my life is just taking on more new challenges, getting out of my comfort zone. As one of my friends used to say, you got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, because that's how you grow. Seriously, nothing grows because it's easy. That seed got to crack through the ground. And so that's what I would say. Just continue to find, explore, and grow. And actually, there's some science behind that. The more as you get, it's a way of slowing down or preventing dementia, because you're learning new
Mm.
things and it's triggering off the neurons in your
Your
brain.
myelin sheaths and how they
Yes,
develop. You remember Oddron?
yes.
So him and we did an interview. I haven't released it yet
Mm,
because he's getting ready to graduate with
yes. Mhm,
his graduate degree. So
mm,
I'm waiting until after he's done with that to release
mm,
it. But great interview, and we talked about his struggle with MS
mm,
and the myelin sheaths and how they're formed and how you literally once it's solidified. You probably know this. I'm
mm.
telling
You're
a
right. Okay.
scientist this. Wait, hold on. I should let you explain it.
No, go ahead.
But like where how it solidifies and it doesn't create any more until you learn a new skill and
Right,
it can be around the same thing like the D chord that's solidified. So now I have to learn the C chord and G chord and
right.
continue to grow it. And
Mm.
such a fascinating thing and how that works and fights against so many things. But
It is.
you're even saying dementia itself.
Yes. And you know what? It's simple. It doesn't have to be pursue something. Just learn something. You don't have to be the master of it.
Mm.
I gave myself 30 days to learn how to solve a Rubik's Cube, and I learned how to do it. But
Nice.
but it was a process. It literally was a
Right.
brain process and learning these algorithms and everything like that. And when I finished, I was like, yo, this was a great accomplishment. I'm learning something new. So you always got to grow and step out your comfort zone.
I love
Definitely.
it, man. Well, you
Mm,
definitely are living that out. Thank you for taking the journey towards your freedom
thank
and
you.
for sharing that. Let everyone know how they can find what you're up to.
All right. Two ways. Well, social media, all my social media is at ran_magic. That's the at symbol, RAN_magic. My website is randyshine.com. That's RANDYSHINE.com. Yes, Shine is my real last name, Sunshine. Yes.
Nice, man. Well, you have a great day. Thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you, brother. Take care until we see each other in person, man. All right?
Definitely, man.
All
Have
right.
fun.
All right. Peace.
Bye. Thank you for listening to the Live and Create podcast. If you like what you heard, make sure you subscribe and leave a comment or a review.
The Live and Create podcast.